When I was in the States, I was a fairly poor, early 20-year-old just trying to live in the States, and met a guy, and we decided to come up with a social dining app. And we realized that if we can get restaurants to basically open their doors to people for discount food, and really nice restaurants, I love to eat well, I just couldn't afford it. So we built that. That was our first thing. And I think that's where I realized that if you could build something that can almost make money for itself, you know, I was like, that's the dream.
Hey, money whilst you sleep is an expression I gave, which I heard once, which I really like. If something can make money whilst you're sleeping, then you know you've nailed it.
It's a great feeling if you can nail it.
Hi everybody, and welcome to FEBE Founder Stories. And as always, got my friend Jules here. How you doing, Jules?
Good, thanks to you.
Another year, another FEBE Growth 100. Pretty cool, right?
Another wrinkle.
We didn't, I was about to say we didn't fit up, but we're still in business, which is great. Anyway, lovely to be joined by Goria. Hi, how you doing?
Pleasure to be here. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Busy day today.
Very, yeah,
What have you been
very. I've had workshops that have been running all day, and yeah, just a lot of stuff internally that seems to kind of bubble up that we're just dealing with. So yeah, good day overall. So glad to be here.
Yeah,
it feels much more relaxed here than anywhere else I've been all day.
Good. Well, listen, the name of the game with what we're doing is always celebrating the amazing thing that entrepreneurs are doing. This is not your first. The phrase at the moment is not your first rodeo. Everyone seems to say that. This isn't your first rodeo. You've reading about you. It's like a number of businesses that you started, right?
Yeah, it's my third startup.
Okay.
But around it, there's a couple of other businesses that are always floating. But I think the term rodeo is a good one, to be honest, because they all feel like you are riding something that is not controlled by someone else, but it's definitely feeling out of control for the most part of it. But yeah, like,
and it's going to chuck you off at any point.
Yeah, you're kind of holding on for dear life. But at the same time, you're also, I'm enjoying this, you know? So I think that's probably the madness of entrepreneurs. But yeah, definitely feel I've been on a few of those.
So, I mean, listen, let's come to UpSkill Digital in a moment, but just give us a feel for what you did before that, and therefore kind of how that experience, how that journey got you to the point where, you know, the business is doing really well. The name of the game with the Growth 100 is growth. You're growing really fast. You must be in a pretty exciting time right now with what you're doing, right? Yeah,
I mean, it's a bit of a roller coaster journey. I fell into entrepreneurship. I think my first startup is when I was living in the States for a few years. Very different story to UpSkill Digital. I mean, the first couple of startups were both tech-based.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting because, so I moved to the States, to New York actually, after I graduated university.
What did you do at uni?
Chemistry, of all
You're clever
things.
then.
Well, I don't know if that's the case. African parents who were like, you're going to study either engineering, medicine, or law. And I said,
or geography. No.
African parents
I did geography. I thought you
people aspire to do geography. I think they do it if they can't do anything else.
There's a few of those that kind of slip down the side. Yeah, like
that was me.
I mean, I think I was just, I happened to be good at chemistry. It was an odd thing to be good at. So I just ended up taking it.
So you are scientific. Straight away I'm thinking you are very good at step by step, knowing how to kind of go, right, for this is where we're going to go, this is the steps we've got to do. Because that's a scientific brain, right?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I like to think so. And I don't compare that with being creative. I feel like I've got a bit of both, to be honest. But I graduated, went to the States, very fortunately got a job working in digital marketing. And whilst I was there, and I used to do a lot of work in experiential marketing, right? Which is when you're basically helping brands kind of activate and basically promote some of their stuff. And so I was used to working for myself quite a lot. So like I was self-employed for a number of years before I started my first startup. And when I was in the States, I was a fairly poor, early 20-year-old just trying to live in the States, and met a guy, and we decided to come up with a social dining app. And we realized that if we can get restaurants to basically open their doors to people for discount food, and really nice restaurants, I love to eat well, I just couldn't afford it. So we built that. That was our first thing. And I think that's where I realized that if you could build something that can almost make money for itself, I was like, that's the dream.
Hey, money whilst you sleep is an expression I gave, which I heard once, which I really like. If something can make money whilst you're sleeping, then you know you've nailed it.
It's a great feeling if you can nail it, if you can get to that point. And And so obviously, that was something that I built for myself to benefit me. And I think
Well, I think that's how all good businesses start, isn't it? From
Yeah.
like a personal passion that is
personal
turned into
need.
a business. So
Yeah.
to save you money eating.
to save me money, that was the time. And so and it grew, and Groupon came in and just wiped that market out for us as well. Then we had another startup which was focused on image tagging technology to buy through visual imagery. But then UpSkill came, and for me, it was an opportunity to really drive more impact in the world, where I knew there was a big challenge around being able to learn about tech, right? I'd actually taught myself when I was in the States how to build websites. I loved how tech was so easy to use if you can get a good handle on it. And there's a few people I worked with kind of mentored me and helped me kind of through that as well. And I thought, there's got to be a space where we can build a training company that can train people on this stuff. And that really is what drove me. And that's where UpSkill started from. I really realized that if I could almost get a number of charismatic coaches who are excited about tech and can help other people learn it, it'd be a better world. I'd never had any formal training, but I kind of always taught myself, how to kind of get it out there and learn what people wanted to learn. And then I landed a really sweet opportunity working with Google. They had
it doesn't get much bigger than being outside Google.
Honestly, it was a brilliant opportunity, and I had to work hard for it. I kind of pitched them to do something really exciting here. But essentially, they had a program. They wanted to train people externally, like small businesses, on how to build websites. And I said, this is really up my street. I think UpSkill, there's a good opportunity for us to scale what we do. So I pitched to them and said, look, can we build a program that really reaches hundreds of thousands of people, but helps them through sort of human-centered learning, so people, experts, and get them in front of small business owners, individuals, and get them really feeling less intimidated by tech, intimidated by digital marketing, that kind of stuff.
Well, why do you think people are intimidated?
I just think people don't like change.
I'd say I'm in that bracket. I am not an embracer.
I mean, we're humans. We don't like change, right? We love things as they are, and actually, if we don't feel confident in something, we often kind of hold it back as long as we can before we actually embrace it, right? And I think but what I find is if you find someone that can give you a little spark, a bit of interest, and help you feel excited by it, it's like when you're at school, you always remember your favorite teacher.
Yeah,
It
Right?
wasn't us. It definitely wasn't me.
Jules was a teacher.
I was an awful teacher.
I mean,
I bet
I'm
you
sure
were.
a lot
I
of your
bet you were
students
brilliant.
would disagree. I'm sure they probably thought
I
you were
used
great.
to watch a lot of geography videos like Twister and like Dante's Peak, and I think that's where they got most of their geographical knowledge from.
They were great films.
So-
They were great films.
They were
One of
great
the-
films.
I think going back to schooling is really important there, because I think the things that we're good at and familiar with are things that you learn at school, and it's just not something that you're taught at school.
Yeah, well, also the
good
education
point.
system is it's not really keeping up to pace with the current working world, right?
Yeah,
So
it's true,
curriculums
yeah.
are built to be very robust, and they don't change unless they've been fully rigorously tested. And actually, tech doesn't.
And academic.
Yeah. And actually, not everybody has that sort of academic mind. They want to learn in different ways. They want to learn in a way that makes it feel, I've got a task to do now. Teach me how to do that now, because that's going to make my life better. I'll be more productive. I'll feel better. Potentially I can get me a job and I can make more money off it. So, school and chemistry never taught me. And actually, I don't remember seeing any courses that were really tailored to the kind of path that I wanted to go in. Right? So we're talking 2006, 2007. There wasn't really many courses that were focused on, how to build websites, and it was called computer science, which was like, do you want to get into programming? But nothing that was relevant to like what businesses needed. So that sparked me. I thought there's definitely a place here to get people who are experts in this space. They've been building websites for years, or they've been teaching digital, or they know digital marketing, and I could help them become trainers and help them teach others. And then just, really, it just built from there.
So can I ask a question, because this is a question we were having earlier. Like, we really want to master TikTok. Is that something? Is that something where UpSkill would say, yeah, we could teach you how to basically master TikTok and Instagram and things like that?
So social media as a whole, yes.
Yeah.
We don't have any specific TikTok courses. We have had requests for some tailored courses, and we can build them. We got a learning team that really get on the skin of how people like to learn, and then we understand the platforms, similar to like generative AI. We're looking at how do we build courses that help people learn how to use it effectively, right? And for what scenarios, what reasons, what kind of outcomes.
Because that is unbelievable how in such a short period of time that I think it's taken everyone by surprise how quickly it is now becoming completely embedded into everything. Well, not everything, but a lot.
It's a very common term.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. But the pace, like the other, until, do you know what? Probably until a couple of months ago, I hadn't heard of chat. I mean, I'm going to say it wrong. ChatGPT.
Yep.
GPT. Unbelievable what that thing does.
Yeah. It's incredible. Look, over time, we've had loads of inventions that have come up, and they've often been quite inaccessible to people. So, the launch of the smartphone, the launch of the internet, were all there, but they were expensive and they were hard to get by and all that, hard to come by. ChatGPT is there. As long as you can get online and get on a computer, you can use it instantly, and it can help you with a bunch of stuff. It's boosting productivity levels beyond belief.
Is it?
It really is. A lot of organizations, a lot of my peers, entrepreneurs, they're using it for lots of great things. And I think
because it's taking out that time of like the brain freeze of thinking, what does it?
It's the starting point.
Yeah,
it really gets you on that journey, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. It's not the end point for a lot of people. It's just something that can get you thinking how to, anything from how to create an app to, how to write a really strong email to your boss or whatever it might be, right? Like,
oh dear, don't teach them that.
Yeah, but this is the point, and I think it's got a lot of people shaken up about how it can affect our approach to learning, and also kind of, in the school systems, educators, they are a little bit worried about that because it means it's taking a bit of power from teachers, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's empowering teachers, right? It's helping them, I run a training organization, so my goal is to help individuals leverage any technology they can to be able to live better lives, be happier, healthier, wealthier, whatever it helps you as an individual, unlock your potential.
And who are those individuals then? Who's your sort of target audience? Is it like kids or old people like John that wants to learn how to use social media, or is it just everyone, businesses? Or?
It's so we primarily work with large organizations, right? So we're either helping them tackle their skills gaps internally, or we are helping them create a more equitable and skilled work sort of society, right? So the range of people we've trained everybody from, and typically it's adults, right? So typically anyone from 16 above right through to, we've run a couple of programs. We had 2 centenarians come through the door.
Really?
Absolutely. And it's
wow,
amazing.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, everybody has this kind of innate curiosity and desire to learn, right? We do have it, but often it gets, how do I say, sort of pushed down by everything else in the world, and a feeling that maybe we don't have the will to do so over a long period of time, or it's too far out of reach. So, our goal is to really give you that confidence, the spark, the access, the ability to be able to learn what we know would be better for you, or actually better for the people you engage with as well. So a lot of times we're training business owners on how to, build more inclusive teams, right? More diverse teams, right? And
so it's broad in terms of what you can basically
it really
help
is.
people with.
It really is, because, like I said, for me, it's about unlocking the potential, right? There's so much trapped potential within organizations that individuals aren't getting the support they need to be able to progress, to stay in organizations. And so we have broadened, which, our curriculum is pretty wide.
And would you say that's what's really driven the growth?
To a certain extent, yes. Yeah. I feel, like I said, when I think about trapped potential, there's lots of areas that we can work in. I mean, we've focused on digital, right? Firstly, because we knew that area or technology is just becoming so prevalent across our lives that we know it's probably the core area we can drive that change and provide access to people who don't know how to leverage it successfully or efficiently to be able to grow. But yeah, everything from, we run workshops and boot camps on data science, on cloud engineering, on sustainability for business owners. It is broad, right? But from our perspective, it just helps kind of, drive that message and help people grow.
And are these sort of accredited courses, or, adds to staff professional development and all that sort of stuff?
Yep. Most of them are CPD certified.
Okay.
So, many are certified in, whether it's, AWS or whether it's, Microsoft. I mean, we have the range of certifications. Some others are just there as a bit of a spark to get you to understand the area that you want to learn and hopefully grow off the back of it as well.
What was it like building a business, in America? I want to understand what is it that has, what experiences you were able to have and what you learned from that, which has helped you really apply that to what is clearly a thriving, successful business. Yeah,
I mean, I look, my experience building my first business, and they always say entrepreneurs, you look back on your business and you'll, instantly say I could have done it much better, right? Yeah. It was small, it was quick. We built a simple app, and we couldn't really get funding at that time. It was pretty difficult, and I know there were a lot of barriers around getting funding. Anyway, but I think what I loved about the States is there is that hunger.
Yes.
Right. With everybody that you meet, there's always a need to help each other or introduce somebody else that can help you, or just trying to build your network that way. And yeah, like I said, I was early 20s living in New York and just I really fed off it, and that's,
the energy and the collaboration.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. If someone's done really well for themselves, it's like, how have you done it? How have you done it?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think in some countries, it's almost like a bit of resentment. And I think that's what something.
Would you say here?
So, I think it's difficult because a community like FEBE is like-minded people that are really supportive of each other. So, I think that they do embrace it more in the US. That it's like, how do you do it? Help me.
Yeah, and I think they're very, in the US, they're very comfortable talking about themselves and their successes, right?
Yes.
I was talking to somebody else about this recently and getting to the crux of why. If you're born and raised in the US, when you're very young, even in kindergarten, you have show and tell, right? Yeah. Which is, as a youngster, you get in front of the class and talk about how awesome you are.
Really?
And whatever you do. And that I think is really interesting, right? Because in the UK, we don't have that.
No.
Right? We don't have a space where you're born into being confident talking about yourself and confident talking about kind of what you do, what you're aspiring to do. And that's, I think, a little bit of difference that we have in the US and in the UK. So you have people who, they go to US to try and build a business, they'll raise and make loads of money, and then they'll shout about it, and they'll be shouting about raise after raise after raise. And in the UK, it just feels a bit more like a slog. There's some great businesses doing great stuff, but we aren't as vocal about it. I don't think anyone else in the world is as vocal about it as the US, to be honest. But
yeah, it works, right?
It works. And I think as an entrepreneur, you often forget how important it is to make sure people know what you're working on, and make sure people know about your successes, and also be confident in talking about them, right? And I think it's something that we can definitely learn and be better at, create more platforms for. There's some amazing individuals creating really phenomenal businesses that they just get their head down and work. Right?
So would you say then that for you, one of the biggest aspects of that experience in America was learning to broadcast what you're doing, why you're doing it, and not be shy about it.
Celebrate your success.
Yeah.
Celebrate success, celebrate failure. I think it's really important, which is something that we're definitely not comfortable doing, or humans really aren't.
Especially here.
Especially in the UK. There's two parts. So firstly, somebody once told me something, and it's one of the great life advices that I've always taken on board, which was, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who knows what you know. And I love that because, it's about how you get better at articulating what you do, how it's relevant to the person you're talking to, and how you can help them tell your story onwards, right? And I feel I definitely learned a lot of that in the US, where people just wanted to know more. They asked lots of questions, and they really wanted to kind of help you succeed, which is it's an incredible feeling. And to your other point, when I started my second business in the UK, I kind of set up in a space called Google Campus, right, which was based out of Silicon Roundabout.
You say base? Is it no longer?
Was the space doesn't exist anymore?
Okay.
But that was my second business. We were there for a few years, and we moved on somewhere else. And they used to run a really interesting event called Startup Funeral, which I thought was one of the coolest things I'd ever heard of. And essentially, it was just an event where entrepreneurs would go on stage and talk about their failures. But it was a great event. You'd go on and talk about, and I did this, and I really fucked up, and it didn't work well, and all the rest of it. And everyone was like, great, let's learn about it, let's share. And I think that was so empowering to have a space and a stage to do that. And I really wish that kind of thing really happened more.
Yeah, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. Because, that's one of the things that, through the founder stories that we do, I think the entrepreneurs are very, very willing to discuss the things that have gone wrong, because ultimately that is what's helped create the success.
Yeah, you got to learn on the journey. I mean, I've had a bunch of fuck ups in my time. Yeah, but it's really important that we can learn from it. It's really, really important that we can share it. And I think that's one of the issues.
So listen, with UpSkill Digital, congratulations on being in the Growth 100. The growth has been it's been amazing. What have you found have been some of the things that have really helped you then to achieve that growth over the past, especially the past 2-3 years, which is where, looking at your figures, it's really, really starting to take off?
Yeah, look, I think a couple of things. Firstly, when I think about growth means different things to different people, right? And I think what's interesting about the FEBE is, like, we've had good revenue growth, right? We've had great clients, great products that allows us to scale. I think, when I consider what has really sort of unlocked that rapid growth over the last couple of years, the industry has become more comfortable with and interested in the need for driving societal change around digital skills. So the landscape has shifted to allow us to bring our products to the forefront, right? The pandemic was a huge help, right? Like, but all the sort of devastation that it caused, it really shone a light on some of the challenges that exist in business, in society, and some of the big gaps that exist, but also shone a light on the responsibility that businesses have to be able to tackle these challenges. And we've been doing it for 7 years, right? We've been running large-scale programs, some of the largest across the UK around digital skills. We've been running inclusion programs to help organizations to really recognize how they can help their managers create more inclusive environments. We've been doing that. And I think for us, that growth needed us to think quite quickly and set ourselves up, in a way that could help us scale effectively, and also pulled us into other countries, right? And so it's right place, right time, right product, good fit.
So you've gone global.
Yeah. I mean, we started, I think the first international event that I did was in Ghana back in 2016, so a year after we started.
Yep.
More of a passion project for me, just wanting to do something in another country and, just digging deep and try and build something over there. I did a project with Google over there and then just kind of grew from there, basically. And yeah, we have teams across about 6 different countries, primarily based in the UK. But the problem we solve is it's a global problem, right? And I think that's where a lot of organizations in other countries are trying to work out how do we leverage this kind of vehicle to help us to tackle that.
And you mentioned that like COVID obviously shone a light on this and that we just weren't prepared. Do you think this is something that, because obviously a lot of businesses made shed loads of money in COVID, but now things are back to normal. Their sales aren't growing as quickly, but do you think this has almost shone a light and it's really made people wake up and it's almost like the catalyst for further growth? Yeah, it's here to stay.
It has, and it definitely has on our business as well, right? As much as everybody was in growth mode, right? And as an entrepreneur, you're always in growth mode, right? You're trying to grow as quickly, you're trying to go as big as you can because you want to tackle the problem at scale, right?
Yeah.
And I think where the pandemic happened, those that reacted quickly to transition themselves into a way that they could truly, capitalize on any shifts within your market, that's where they were able to see that growth. But we're getting to a point, recession, whatever it might be, like that is a real kind of, real war for a lot of people where they've recognized, if you were growing fast, can you ensure that what you've built is sustainable and can grow? And you need to really be considerate of the climate around you as we go through this post-pandemic period. And I've definitely learned a lot during this period, and growth has looked a little bit different for many organizations, many of my peers. It's not just about driving revenue, it's about profitability, it's about structure, it's about ensuring that you have a robust approach, and that you can dig in deep and show value with the clients that you work with as well. So it has definitely been a journey, and I think this post-pandemic has educated us a lot on what resilience really means and how you can shift and adapt but focus on sustainability within your organization.
How big's the team?
So we're about 60 or so people at the moment. Yeah. So we have, and it's fluctuated in size based on, the client, the market, our clients, the market. Like, how do we ensure that we be considerate of how the landscape is changing to allow us to continue to grow in a sustainable fashion. So, we've spent a lot of the last 6 months or so really rethinking the shape and the structure to be able to grow, like, as we move out of this period that we're in at the moment.
Yeah. How do you find something we spoke about a lot today is the responsibility of starting to build up, your family, it's your workforce, your team, the people that have trusted in you to, because it's a two-way thing. How have you found the responsibility and the experience of building up a team, a thriving, growing team?
I mean, you get very connected. I remember my first hire when I was thinking to myself, the work that we do needs to that puts money in your pocket, that puts money in your life, and that helps you, do what you do. So I've got to build something that helps you win as well, right?
Yeah, it's a nice way to look at it.
And the first few hires you are thinking, am I building something that helps us all succeed, right? When it's yourself, you're a founder, you're like, I'm gonna do everything myself as long as I can, and then I hire the people, your salary is gonna need to justify itself, and we need to kind of grow off that. So I'm always super connected to it, but as you get to a size, when you start to grow a bit further and you put structures in place where you have a model that continues to fund itself and grow at the pace that you want it to, your focus is on ensuring that it continues to support the right people in the organization, but those individuals know that they're on a vehicle that will help them grow.
Yeah.
So I start to care more, and especially because we're a learning organization, about the growth of the individuals in the organization. So investing in themselves, making sure that, this allows for them to be able to drive the impact they want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So, and a lot of people join us because they know that they can make impact through an organization like ours. And I say, being committed to the mission is one thing, but also being able to bring the best of yourself, I think is really important. So, I care a lot about that. And for me, I try to make the best environment. And, I'm absolutely not perfect. We're founders, we make mistakes, all the rest of it, but we do our best to try and create that.
Making it up as we go along as someone.
Yeah, we try to, definitely flapping on the wall, all the rest of it. Though, but it's, it's really ensuring that, because you have to build their trust, right? And trust is not easy to come by. And if you're a founder that, if you make mistakes, then, and you feel like you need to make sure that trust is still there, but also be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're a human being, and, you do your best. As long as you do your best by the people around you, then, hopefully they'll do their best by you.
Yeah.
And how important is the cultural fit of your staff? Like when you hire someone, do you look at like them as a person first, or their skills, or a mixture of both?
Do you know what? I think I've gone through a bit of a transition as I've gone with this business. I think in the early days, I loved people that were super keen on, or super fast learners, right? And, they love the mission. They want to stay with us. They wanted to grow with us. They wanted to really deliver impact and do so in a scrappy, hustly kind of way. And you do that when you're smaller, and then when you grow and the structure gets in place, and then you have to realize you need experience to kind of really help you structure and build it in the right way. And I've definitely gone through a transition, because as well as an organization that tries to ensure that we have the right diverse makeup of individuals. And, I'm one that in my life, in my journey, I've always tried to break stereotypes and get people to really think, actually, beyond face value, we have very rich stories. And I crave hearing rich stories and bringing people into organizations that can actually kind of share those. So I try to build the most diverse environment around me, whilst at the same time balancing getting the expertise you need to do the job they need to do, right? And I've definitely had issues before where we've had individuals that were fantastic, like super smart, super fast learning and great, but perhaps didn't fit certain roles that were needed for the business, right? And that also becomes quite hard, because you want people to do the best by them, but at the same time you need to build the right structure that grows the organization.
It's interesting what you said. You were saying, at the start, it's the hustle. It's that you've got to learn fast, you've got to move fast, you've got a super ambition, but then there comes a point as the business grows up when you can't keep on recruiting people in your image, because that's what a founder is. It's the hustle, it's the constant learning fast, moving fast. It's quite interesting dynamic you're explaining there. The kind of skill set changes, and
and look,
it's an evolution in itself, isn't it?
I mean, I definitely do not like recruiting in my image, because I'm not the ideal person that I want to recruit. Right?
I wasn't saying that,
but you want people, again, who have the same mentality.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And I fully agree. You want somebody that is hungry for growth, hungry to learn themselves, right? Wants to share their experiences, bring different perspectives, and really kind of help build an environment where everyone can win together. And I do feel, like you said, as you grow up, so to speak, you have to ensure you find people who've also done it elsewhere, right? And they can bring different perspectives and different experiences, and that expertise it is hard to come by. But you also want to create a bit of gap for that potential for them to be able to grow. So it is often hard finding great people, but I think you're right. If that mentality of wanting to grow, that mentality of feeling that you can empower others around you, build trust, and get people excited by where you can get to, I think is absolutely key.
So as a business starts to really grow, and it goes out from that that startup phase to then a maturer, more established stage, some people love that evolution from rookie founder to CEO. Some people struggle with it. How do you like being that that CEO role? Is it something that you feel comfortable with?
I've had to become more comfortable with it. Okay. I definitely feel it challenged me to be a different version of myself. I feel you have a different responsibility to the people around you. And again, what's interesting about us is, we've been going 8 years now, we've never raised any funding, right? So, which means, and so as a solo owner, I have different pressures than a lot of sort of my peers do as I grow the business. So from a CEO perspective, I definitely have to learn a lot as to, how do I structure a business in the right way to make sure we grow in a sustainable but in a responsible way, as well as an organization. It's not easy. I feel the workforce and the demands of the workforce has also changed since the pandemic. People want different things, from how they like to go to work, working remote, working hybrid, how they want to build their teams, what they expect from the business. And I think I really relish the opportunity to challenge myself and learn, how do I shape the business so that it does become a great place to work for people, right? And also build a leadership team around you that want to do that. So I feel, it's been a hard slog, but I've learned a hell of a lot on the way. The learning curve is steep.
And it's rare you hear, but it's rare these days where you hear a business that, like you say, we haven't taken on funding.
Yeah. That's not. It's not normal around my peers. It's not been easy. It's a roller coaster in itself, right? Because you pressurize. It's yourself that puts the pressure on, right? It's me who decides on how hard we want to go, how slow we want to go, the pace at which we grow, and where we want to go as well. So, and often, when you're left to your own thoughts for too long, it'd be kind of dangerous, right? So I've needed to have the right people around me to kind of, hold me to account, right, for the growth that we have the ambitions to aspire to, but also so we do so in a responsible way and creating the right kind of environment to work in as well.
Yeah. Okay. You can ask a question.
Yeah, just like, I think when you start a business, a lot of people think that you just start the business and that was you, as opposed to like the 20 years before that gets you to that point. And like something that you mentioned earlier was about a business that you had, and like Groupon just swooped in and sort of like not took you out the market, but just sort of were there quicker. So what have you obviously don't want that to happen again, I guess. So what makes you unique and is going to stop that from happening again?
I mean, the way we work with our clients, a lot of them work with us because of the longevity we've had, right? And there's been a lot of new players in the space, which is just fantastic for society and fantastic for the world, to have more people offering more support, right, to help people grow. And if anything, it drives us to be better at what we do, be clearer about how we go about what we do, and make sure we showcase our value better and in a clearer fashion. So, there are many big players in our market anyway, but I think when it comes to either driving or helping companies fulfill some of their CSR commitments around driving the societal change, there aren't many that have done it in a way that we've approached it or reached the scale that we have. And we've trained just over 600,000 people over the course of the last 8 years, through typically live sessions, and that's a lot.
That's a high number.
Yeah, across the globe, and that comes from a lot of blood, sweat, tears, travel, miles, air miles, all that kind of stuff, right? It comes with all of that.
Not easy.
What makes us different is that we are human centered, right? We believe in the ability of people to be able to learn from people, right? And we believe that there are a lot of individuals out there that have some incredible expertise that they can bring to anyone out there, but more importantly, focusing on those that need it most. If we can find a way to help those in, whether you're marginalized communities or more deprived, communities, or within organizations feeling that there are barriers to progress and barriers to be able to hit the higher levels, we put pressure on organizations to try and, invest in that in the right way. And you don't get many more passionate than I am to try and make that change.
And you can tell.
That's obvious, yeah.
Yeah, and
you
I
love
just,
it, don't you? You love what you do.
I do, and I don't shy away from a tough conversation about making it happen. And I do put pressure on organizations to really think about how are we driving this change in the world, because we want to see it. And if it's right in front of us, we can make that change.
Brilliant. There is an element of being a stalker with this job. We look on, we research you.
John goes outside the town.
I think I've seen him popping up out of a bush.
As weird as that sounds. But I was having a look at your Instagram, and you live life. It's awesome. We've spoken a lot about business, but it seems that you're living it. Tell us, is that just something you're really just determined to do, and what have you? I mean,
I'll caveat, I'm used to Instagram. I think I post like once every few months. Like, I'm really not great at it, but I crave experiences.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what you can tell.
For me, I've always, I don't know what it is, but one, I find myself in random situations, where it just seems a bit Instagram worthy, right? And I'll mention a couple, because there are a couple of random situations like that. But for me, I have always figured life is about experiences. You learn a lot on that journey, and I feel, I crave it so often, and I feel often people, just they don't understand if they could really kind of break themselves out and go and explore more or learn more or do something different, do something new, that it helps you become a stronger, more resilient, more worldly, more cultured individual anyway. And I feel like it's just so much more you can learn from people. So I'm often out there. I've got a couple of random so every year I celebrate my birthday in a Russian banya, which is a bathhouse. It's like a sauna. It's in December. It's winter. It's cold. It's perfect timing. And like last year, for example, with a bunch of mates, and we just go in and we get a few people together and we go and sit in the banya, and we go in and we sit down, and I look up and next to me is Ian Wright.
I saw that.
And me and him are half naked, just sitting there next to each other. Yeah. And we didn't even realize for like a good minute or so. And then it was like, well, this is just random, but this is definitely Instagrammable. Because I'm a big gooner, love it, and best believe I was going to get that photo. So yeah, it had to happen.
Legendary status.
He is. But yeah, so I love to travel. I'm fortunate to be able to travel a bit. I've jumped out of planes a few times. I've just done a lot of sort of wacky stuff, and I just crave it. If I get an opportunity to do it, and if I can, and I'll make it happen.
Yeah, because it's important you get the balance to business and life, right?
Yeah,
it's there to be lived.
Yeah, I mean, and people know whenever I try to travel for work, I'll fit in something that feels completely random and completely different.
I love it.
That's literally how I like to live.
Yeah.
But we know a good company, if you're not very good on Instagram, like social media, we know a good company that could train you.
Fantastic. I'll take the number. There's lots to learn. It's a personal thing. Yeah, it's definitely. I always feel like people often get, quite cagey about posting and sharing about themselves. It's just what we were talking about before, about being really open about what you do. For me, it's just time. I just, I'm the worst at it.
But you're out there living it as opposed to putting it on social
that's
media.
The issue.
So I think there's a balance, isn't there?
That's the issue. And my wife will tell me this as well, because she's on Instagram and she does that, and she's much better at it than me. But I'm the kind of guy who'll do something crazy, like I took a selfie with Sadiq Khan last week, and then I'll post it 3 days later, like on Instagram Reel, and be like, "Oh, are you there now?" And I'm like, "No, that happened ages ago." Like, you can't do that. So I do a lot of that, especially when I'm on holiday. People say, "You're on holiday?" No, I got back a week ago. But it's just
security. That is.
Yeah, I'm a bit late to post, to be honest. But yeah, that's definitely me.
So listen, tell us. Let's just, in terms of, I guess we've heard the great kind of story of what got you to creating the business now that is thriving, that it's growing, and obviously the enjoyment that's bringing. What can we look forward to in the kind of months and years ahead now with UpSkill Digital? Yeah,
well, a couple of big things. I mean, we hit 600,000 people trained early this year, which was incredible. And that just drove us to have a bigger mission. So our goal is try and hit 1 million people trained by the end of 2026. To do that, we have launched our learning platform, which for us is really key for scale. We've had a lot of organizations we're working with that are partnering and looking for ways to be able to drive that scale through a platform like this, and also make learning more accessible. It's really important that we continue to the core of our offering, which is making sure that everybody that needs it most can get access to the learning that they need to be able to participate, to thrive in society, to progress through organizations, to kind of reach those high limits. So you'll see us more over the next few years doing more work in the US. We've landed a fairly large US client, and for us, we want to try and really scale and engage in that, because, like I said, the problem that we solve is global, and in certain countries they fund programs that can help really tackle that well, and the commitment to kind of drive organizations to realize their responsibility to drive this change is there, and
that's really strong in you, isn't it?
It's unfortunate that we have to really push them to do more, but I continuously say there's so many benefits for society if more organizations did that. So it's driving that change, and we know there can be a huge vehicle. Corporations can be a huge vehicle for change. So how do we help them do that and just unlock all that trapped potential that exists across, not just within organizations, but also in society, right? So yeah, you'll see the learning platform is going to be a big one, for us as we truly kind of elevate that. Again, global expansion is great for us, and we're always looking for great people that want to join us in that journey.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, one final question. Yeah. Success, what does it mean to you? What is for you going to be the definition of, looking back on this or looking at this and thinking, yeah, this is why I did this. This is what it means to me to be able to, to achieving what I'm achieving and more.
Success can take so many different forms. I love to look back on an organization that has that sustainable growth, right? It's an engine that continues to help people become better versions of themselves. That is able to scale and reach as many people as possible to provide that training.
Yeah.
I want to continue to build something that does that. Success for me is also being able to live my best self, my best life, and go out there and do what I get to do, whilst knowing that I can keep building great stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still, like all of us, on the journey. There are little bits of success that we take along the way, and we celebrate it and enjoy it. And I think there should never be an end goal where you say, I've done it, I've ticked it. It should always be something that you feel confident that is continually almost growing itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, success for me will be ongoing.
And we should celebrate failures as well as success.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
think that's-
I'm going to hold you to that,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's definitely something
you
in
can.
there.
Hold me, because we're going to make that happen.
I'll be first up for that.
Oh, I'd love to.
For sure.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that. Listen, I have loved talking to you. It's so great to see that, the passion for what you are doing, that's so clear. And, to see a business that combined with that passion is growing and thriving, and that's a lovely thing to see. So huge congratulations on everything that you're achieving at UpSkill Digital, and can't wait to, keep on hearing and seeing what you can do in the future.
Keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it. Pleasure to be here, and really appreciate talking to you both.
Pleasure. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.